I'm gonna bah, ha, 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 ha.
I'm so happy you did that right on time because like I hit record and you was like, bye. Here we go. Another blooper. I am on it.
My face is all red again. Okay. It's fine.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to BakedHR. My name is Jasmine Wilkes, and I am here with my BakedHR co-host, Christina Minyard. How are you doing today, Christina?
I am doing well, Jasmine. How are you?
I'm doing okay, hanging in there, still here and alive, which is a good thing in America. So,
start, yeah. Birthday month going strong.
It is. It's, April's always, April's like the best month. So you can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, whatever. It's January. Happy birthday month still. So I am super excited. I love it whenever we have a guest because I feel like people need to hear from other people in our space, not just us, especially because we easily get on a rant and people need a break every now and then. So we have the wonderful Wendy Dailey with us tonight. And Wendy, I will let you just go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. So short and sweet version, Wendy Dailey. I am a talent acquisition professional, HR podcaster, HR blogger, wife, mother, Girl Scout leader, because I've been spending my whole life, last few months have been all Girl Scouts all the time. But I am super stoked to be here. I have loved getting to know both of you over the last few years, and I love what you are doing in BakedHR, and so excited to be here with you tonight.
Well, we are very excited that you are here. And I just have to say, I love the Girl Scouts. I was a Girl Scout, so I always get excited when I see your Girl Scout post. So I hope that your ladies are enjoying Girl Scouts as much as I did.
They are. My oldest, we are planning a trip to the Black Hills for her troop. And we are going to spend 5 days with them. They're all high school girls. So
oh, bless you.
Yeah, they're good. It should be great. It should be all fine. We're going to stay in cabins. So I get a real bed. I am too old to sleep on the ground. I don't do that anymore.
Listen, I don't think I've slept on the ground since I was a Girl Scout, so I don't blame you there.
Oh, yeah.
So recently, you and John, I say recently, but really no concept whatsoever to me anymore. You and John had Jasmine and I on the HR Social Hour, which we had a lot of fun. Always good to catch up with y'all. And I think we got to talk to John while he was on his first work trip since the pandemic started. And so that felt like, maybe a historic moment. I don't know. But when we were talking, somehow we worked into this topic of like work boundaries, maybe because I was at the beach and I was working. I don't remember how it came up. But, you kind of shared, you have some hard lines and you have some strong boundaries already in place with work. And so Jasmine and I really wanted to take an opportunity to question you about how you got there and how that has served you. And like what challenges that has maybe even caused for you. So we want to start with what was that moment where you were like, no, I have to have, like, you can't have more of me than you are paying for or you deserve, or whatever that moment was for you.
I don't know that there's a single moment that I can point to and say, this was it. It was, there was a hospital system that I worked for a while ago when my girls were young, and it was very much the martyr complex there, where you had to be on all the time, and we would get up and spend 20 minutes twice a week talking about how busy we were, and you couldn't say, I was up till 10 o'clock last night working, and I was up till this time last night working, and there was a part of me always looking around going, are you that bad at your job that it takes you that long to do your work? Because I feel like I'm getting my work done in like 7 hours. So one of us is doing something wrong here. And I really hope it's not me, because I don't want to be working at 10 o'clock at night. I want to be in bed asleep. but that there was this whole culture there of, I call it the busier than thou culture. How busy are you? And if you dared to say, hey, I can help, I've got some extra time, you were the one in trouble, because why don't you have enough to do? So rather than, learning how to help each other, learning teamwork, we were pretty much told, you need to just pretend, you need to look busy. The George Costanza, oh, just so busy. You had to have that look and make people think that you were busy. There was one point there, I was taking an accounting class to try and start working on a master's degree. And I would work on it at my lunch hour at my desk. And one day I left my accounting book on my desk and I got in trouble.
Oh.
Because how did that look? Not that they thought I was doing accounting work during my work time, paid time, but how did it look to people? So it was all about this appearance, this false facade. And I'm just like, I don't know that this is who I want to be, what I want to do. And then when we moved to South Dakota, I worked for at a place where we had round the clock people. So we had people there at all hours over, cleaning people overnight. So I would go in, a couple times a quarter to say hi. And that was fine. And that was really where I started this balance of, well, I'm coming in late to be here at midnight to talk to staff. So I'm not coming in till 10. I'm not coming in till later because I'm putting in my time. And besides, you don't pay me by the hour. You pay me to do a job. And my boss there really understood that as well. He was very much a firm believer in, I'm paying you to do a job, not sit behind a desk for 8 hours. And so I want you to do that job. And he would occasionally text me. There'd be occasional emergencies like, okay, so-and-so did something stupid again. You're going to have to come in early tomorrow because we have to write them up again. And these were just things that were just weighing on me like, oh, man. So when I went to my latest work and I was almost just a worker bee again. I was just a recruiter, a day-to-day recruiter. And now doing in my current job where I'm doing more strategy stuff, it was really just you know what? I don't want to be on call. I don't want somebody calling me before work, after work, that some big emergency came up, because let's be honest, there aren't recruitment emergencies. It can wait. It seriously can wait. And now that I'm doing strategy, it really can wait. There's nothing that I need to, maybe there's some numbers that need to be pulled, but they need to be pulled for a meeting that's later today. Very rarely is going to be, hey, we need those numbers. It's 7:30 a.m. and we need them by 8 a.m.
Right.
Really? And we've even joked about that on my team when we're going to be out of the office. And it's like, oh, well, you should need to put you're out of office. Someone needs to cover for you. I'm going to be gone for a day. Really? Somebody needs to cover for me? What emergency is going to come up? And now working from home, I've really felt that, there's a lot of people that are having those longer hours or doing a lot of that stuff. And I've kind of kept it to myself that I'm like, you know what? I will log in between 7:30 and 8 o'clock every day. And I'm going to log out between 4:30 and 5 because that's my work day. I will be available unless I'm going to having lunch because we get breaks. When you work at home, hey,
what?
Big surprise. Even working from home, you get to take a break. You get to, go take a quick walk, clear your head, do those things. I have found I'm so much more productive in that way. And so at this point in my career and the balance for my life with my family, I don't want to be in charge. I don't want to have people that need to report to me because this job gives me the flexibility and the freedom to be able to set my hours in a way that I am, the way that I can. I realize not everyone can do that. If you're an HR department of one, you might not be able to have that, that hard lines. You might have to be a little bit more gray, but it has saved my sanity. It has made me much happier, much more relaxed in my day-to-day. I don't feel like I have this pressure because we all know we're going to log on when we need to get on, and we know when we're done, and we'll get back to those emails the next day. They're not going anywhere. So, and I haven't had to have like a lot of hard conversations with anybody about it because I have chosen a job that allows me to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's funny that you said on your team, you guys have talked about like, oh, you need to put it out. Like Wendy's covering for me while I'm out of office. And I like when you said one day, it took me back to this moment. My last supervisor, which I might need to call my therapist and make a therapy appointment tomorrow. Thank you, Wendy. I remember, so I personally seem to get myself into these situations where I'm good at what I do. So I do what I do in maybe 7 hours, like you said, where it would take somebody else 8, 9, 10, 11 hours. So then that just really means that I've created opportunity for my supervisor to give me another project, to give me someone else's workload. I like to work. I'm good at work. I have terrible work boundaries, partly because of that, because I will just be like, yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I'll do that. Or yeah, I can see like where I can, and this last time I thought I was being very, like, I was really proud of myself because I was like, oh yeah, well, I can do it in the interim. I can do it in the interim. The problem is we never really defined what the interim would be.
Yeah.
And so the interim was going on and on and on and on.
And suddenly it's permanent and yeah.
Right. And so, but one day we were having a meeting and it was all of the direct reports to my manager. And he wanted some of the team to stop what they were doing and work on something else, which sometimes happens. It sometimes is totally a legitimate case. And I think in that moment, it probably was a legitimate case. But what none of us expected was what he said next. And what he said next was, nothing's going to fall apart in one day. So if you stop working on this project and go work on that project like I want you to, this project's not going to fall apart because it's only going to be one day. Right. And like, I could have jumped on top of the desk. Like, do you hear yourself? Because that's not how you talk to us when we need to be out of the office.
Right.
Or when we tell you, hey, maybe you should take a day off. And then we say things back to you like, the place is not going to fall apart in one day. It's literally not possible for the place to fall apart in one day. And so I'm glad that you guys have that on your team. And so you pointed out that like you're in a role where you don't want people to report to you. And you've switched jobs a couple of times since you developed this. I have a boundary and here it is. Have you ever, because I don't know, part of this is just me and Jasmine can speak to her experience, obviously. But I think part of it's my fault because I don't set that boundary and I do take on more projects. So what should someone say up front to make it a non-issue so that it doesn't become okay, now you're taking up too much of my time and having to have a different kind of difficult conversation?
It is. It's not easy, and it's really knowing yourself and how you can work. And having the conversation up front is not comfortable. It's not, to come back and say, this is when I'm working. But I think really now with more and more people working remotely, you need to be able to say that up front. And if you want to, switch it up a little bit with, what hours do you want me available? What hours do I need to be available to answer an email, to respond to a text message, respond to an IM, however you're communicating within your organization? What hours do you need me to be available? And then have that conversation from there to be able to say, great, hey, on Tuesdays, I'm going to be out of pocket a little bit differently because I'm going to pick up my kids, or I'm going to be logging on later because I need to drop my kids off here, or do some of those different things, which you'd have those conversations, or you should be, if you were going into an office, and say, hey, I got to pick up my kids or do whatever to get them where they need to go. Or even if you don't have, I got to take my dog somewhere. Not just because we shouldn't just be flexible because people have kids. We should be flexible because people have a life outside of the office. But if you know when those work hours are, when are you expected to be available, and then having the communication up front ahead of time to say, that's great. Here's some times that I'm not going to be available. I've been asked to teach a fitness class over the lunch hour on Mondays and Fridays. So for an hour, you're not going to be able to get in touch with me because I'm going to be away, or whatever it is, so that your supervisor knows. And one thing that I've learned, and it took me way too long to learn this, but when it comes to your availability, it is better to ask permission than forgiveness. It is better to tell them up front when you are available and when you're not available, so that they can be aware and plan around them. So, your supervisor, if she knows that you're going to be teaching a fitness class at noon on Mondays, she's not going to try to call you at noon on Monday. She's either going to call you before or after, because she's going to be aware of that. Especially, and put it on your calendar. Just put it on your calendar that you're not there. Put lunch on your calendar.
Okay, I'm just going to say this, Wendy, we have had totally different supervisors, because I swear I've had a supervisor who, if I said I'm teaching a fitness class on Mondays at noon, I'm not available, I promise you at 12:01 he would call me on Monday.
Oh, and I've had supervisors like that. I really do. And this is one of those things too, where I understand how fortunate I am to work where I do right now, and be able to have that flexibility and that freedom. I have worked places. The last hospital system I worked for, that would not have gone over. But I also knew that while I was there, that although they said they were family friendly, although they said they liked the flexible work environment, no, they were the people that the people in the chief executive suite, in the C-suite, they were on vacation calling back to check on things. And like, we're writing reports here. We're not recruiting. And so it's trying to figure that out, how that meshes within your work life. And, and I get this as a privileged statement as well, and finding the job that allows you to work in the way that you need to work. I get that's privileged because not everyone has the ability to do that. But if you can, I highly recommend it. I mean, there's times that I'm just like, well, I could go work at Walmart. I could do that. And at least have some flexibility with it because it's retail. But, it's trying to figure out, what do you need for your life? What's that balance that you need? And then having those boundaries. And, again, doing something during the workday, even if it is your lunch hour, that is a little bit trickier. Because I do have that supervisor that if I said I'm gonna go, I need to go pick up my kid at 2:00, at 1:45, they're calling with a fire that only I could put out. No one else, even though there's probably 10 other people in the office, only Wendy can put
out. So I haven't had all supervisors that would do that would like call. With me, I think my biggest thing is I volunteered for NASHRM for the local chapter over the past few years, and it feels like a job, especially this year. But
you probably should be getting a paycheck for it.
And so having to factor in those meetings into different workplaces has been difficult. Like for my first job, it was okay. They were fine with me, actually going to the events because they were like once a month. But then when you start volunteering, you have the actually monthly meeting. You have the volunteer meeting that you have to go to each month, like the board meeting. Then you go out of the city to sit down at the beginning of the year. So things add up.
Yeah.
The second job was a little bit easier because my boss was the president at the time, and so it worked out very easily. And now I'm in a role where, you know, I'm still over programs and I'm not in the city anymore, which, you know, thankfully, because, you know, we're doing everything virtual. So that really
Mm,
doesn't matter. But me thinking about when we do go back to being in-person meetings, that was one question I asked at the interview phase was, hey, how do you feel about me, you know, volunteering for NASHRM and not just in a, oh, I occasionally go to the meeting. No, I set up the program. So therefore, pretty much at every single meeting, I have to be there, which means at least for 2.5 hours on the second Tuesday of every month, you won't see me. Like
mhm.
I have to go. And then with the commute, it's really turning into, hey, I'm just going to work from home that day.
Right.
So are you okay with that? So I've asked, green light. So I've asked that question. Um, but a lot of people don't feel like, and this is changing a lot, especially now with COVID and a lot more people being able to work from home. But a lot of people don't feel like we have not, I don't want to say like we have the right to ask organizations that question, but that's kind of basically it is like if I ask you, you know, can I work
Mhm.
from home? And you tell me yes, and then I get hired on, and then it's like, okay, you can, but you can only do it on such and such days. You can only do it on such and such hours. We won't actually provide you with anything that you
Right.
need to work from home. Um, so it's a lot going on with it, and then
Yeah.
so I mean, setting those boundaries, I think, you know, especially now when people have so much going on. And like you said, you can't just set them for people who have kids. That's not the only reason people need
Right.
boundaries at work. But I do think that's a difficult conversation to have with a potential boss or even with your current organization, because a lot of organizations, especially in North Alabama, you know, one, we didn't believe in them because government contracting. So we were like, no, you cannot work from home. We don't know what you're doing. And then two, it was, you know, you know, in 1982, Paul was coming into the office. So why can't you come into office in 2012? Like,
Right.
why can't you come into office in 2021? Like, what's going on? I don't understand. Um, so
Yeah.
there are different things going on, you know, where it's being a little more acceptable now that people can work from home or, you know, maybe do things differently. But even with the pandemic, you know, closing out, as some people like to say, don't believe that. Um, I think
No.
it's going to be difficult to have those conversations for
Yeah.
people and set those boundaries.
It's still very difficult. There's still a lot, we still hear those stories, and I'm sure you guys too do too, of there's still organizations that are like, no, as soon as you can, we're all coming back into the office. And in my organization is extremely large, so each department has it left up to them. And a friend of mine interviewed in a different non-HR department, and she was like, yeah, they said no, as soon as you can, everyone's going to be in the office again. We need to have that face to face. We need to have that brainstorming and that connection. And I'm like, I'm still doing that with my team, and I have a teammate that's in Idaho, so he's never in the office. But there is a huge mind shift that's going on right now, and I think we're all seeing it. I honestly believe that the organizations that can and do provide that flexible work arrangement where people can choose to work where they're comfortable. So if you're not comfortable working from home, we're not going to force you to. If you want to do some sort of combination, fine. Let's figure out how to make that work so that you can work where you're comfortable. I know there's still a lot of people out there that believe in FaceTime. And if you want to move up, you're going to have that face-to-face recognition. I'm like, okay, well, we're still going to be doing the meetings on WebEx because it's too big. Our organization is too big. We're in 26 states. If I have to present to
I look
somebody.
the same in person as I do on camera.
I actually look better right now on Zoom.
When we're forced back to the office, we're all going to be carrying our ring lights with us.
Right? Here's how I look better. And, I need a lot of time to make sure that my pants still fit. So,
You're teaching that fitness class twice a week. You're fine. You're fine.
But it is, helping people to see that. And then if you can, looking for the right place who can do that for you. Because the more often we choose those locations that are doing it the way that works for us, the more likely others are going to come along and be able to do that. And, again, we know not everyone can work from home. Not everyone can have that much flexibility. But, I mean, we're even looking at, there aren't enough people in Sioux Falls to fill all the open jobs in Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
There's not. Our unemployment is under 3% already. So we're going to have to put more of our jobs remote and get people where they are. So if a job can be done remotely, we should have that as an option to get to those people in the small towns that are 60, 70, 80 miles away, where they want to stay in that small town.
Yeah.
But if there's no job, then that's why those towns are dying. But if we can get jobs to them, that's going to let those little towns stay alive. They'll be able to support a grocery store and a post office and what else is in my small town? The 3 bars. To be able to
one stoplight will stay on.
Well, there's no stoplights, but maybe we can keep the streets paved, But if we can get jobs to where people are and understand that, there's different ways that work can be done. Every single job does not need to happen in an office, behind a desk, at a computer. Nurses can't work that way. Retail operators can't work that way. So why do office workers have to work, work that way? Let's find different ways to get the work done. Retail has adapted. They can't get as many people to work at Walmart. So what do? They started self-checkout. I love self-checkout. I don't have to talk to anybody. I can just check myself out and go.
Oh, that's great. That's it. That's a funny example. My grandma used to say, I don't know why they want me to do self-checkout. They don't pay me to check my groceries. And my grandma is a very kind lady. She never says ugly things. And so I was just like, Grandma, that's actually an excellent point, but I'd rather not talk to anybody. So
you wouldn't give
I'm going there because I don't want to make small talk. You still have people to check you out if you want to do it yourself. So, now if the post office could get some self-checkout just for stamps and stuff, oh my God.
Right. Just, I don't know, just like a little vending machine or something with the stamp.
They used to have them all the time, all over the place. Back in back in the 90s, seriously, you could find a vending machine and buy stamps all over the place. And now you can't. So post office, self-checkout. Come on, you could be open 24 hours a day. Just saying.
Did not know that.
I hate the post office. I mean, I just hate going to the post office.
Oh, I've got a stack of stuff that I need to mail, and I'm just like, I don't want to go.
Exactly. Especially now, it's like you go and there's always a line. Like there's always a line. And I mean, not to, of course the workers are doing the best that they can and working as fast as they can, but there's so many people who are always in line, like
it doesn't matter. And then you get behind someone who's getting their passport photo taken, and ours is small.
Office down here. We got a Walgreens for that.
Well,
I think
we haven't, but in the post office, but they do separate like the people who need to get a passport.
Oh, okay.
People that need to like do packaging and mailing type things. So I'll give them that.
No, I have a small post office, so, and I guess you can go to Walmart and get your photo taken, but you still have to, the full application thing. But I don't know. I don't have an active passport right now. So, because there's nowhere to go.
Well, who needs it during COVID? We can't go anywhere.
Can't go anywhere. I'm not leaving. We're not gonna be able to leave the country for a while, I'm sure. So.
I just updated my passport, and my new passport photo is terrible. But it's not the guy's fault at Walgreens. It's my fault. It's not his fault. It's my fault. So anyway, all of that to say, so what we're encouraging people to do is try to set those boundaries up front.
Yes.
If the boundaries aren't going well, and I'm so glad, Jasmine, that you pointed out that you brought that up in the interview process with your current employer, because I was going to ask Wendy as a recruiter, when do you think is the right time to start having this conversation? But you're absolutely right.
No, definitely
bring it up in the interview.
Bring it up in the interview. I would, mention it to the recruiter, and the recruiter doesn't always know, but they can maybe give you some guidelines. Talk to your hiring manager. I was giggling a little bit because in my current work, I've technically had like 10 different supervisors just because of how work's been rearranged and things. So I've had the conversation like 10 times of here's all the outside stuff that I do. Here's all the outside stuff that I do. And I finally just put it in an email and said, okay, hi, new supervisor, here's all this other stuff that I do. I do speaking engagements and that sort of stuff, blah, 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 blah. Boom.
Yeah, no, that's smart. And I like, and I think like Jasmine explained, like, hey, this is an HR group that I'm volunteering with. And so I think employers typically see that as beneficial to them, because it's beneficial to them if we, as their, support staff, continue to grow and learn.
Right.
But, there are scenarios where there's a surprise and like, oh, every second Tuesday of the month you have to be out. Oh, I misunderstood you. So we're setting boundaries up front. We're having the conversation as early as possible. We're looking for new jobs if the current job can't accommodate what we have. What else am I forgetting in the recap for everyone?
Well, stick to it. Stick to seriously, when I think you posted it, Christina, it's the weekend, turn off your work phone, turn off your work email. If you're on PTO, don't answer. I'll just check in. Don't do that, because you are messing up your boundary. And if you mess up your boundary, your supervisor will mess with it.
It's very, very hard to take it back.
It's very hard.
So for my birthday, I took PTO, and so I have this work phone, and look, y'all, this work phone, the first day I got it, I got a spam call at 1 a.m. So I was like, this ain't working for me. But so I set my out of office on Thursday, and I turned my work phone off, but now I just keep looking at it like, I feel like I should turn it on.
Don't turn it on. Don't do it.
There's something.
Aren't you off tomorrow too? Did you take like a full? Yeah, don't turn it on.
Don't turn it on. It's so hard to take it back. And, and I so often, HR professionals, we do it to ourselves. Because we think we need to be accessible for the employees. And there was one tweet, it was a while ago, somebody posted, well, I have PTO and it's it's Employees Day. And so I feel like I should just bring donuts in. And I was like, why can't you bring donuts in the following day? It's your day off. And there were so many people saying, oh yeah, do it. They'll love you. Yeah, but then they'll cross that line when you're on your honeymoon.
Or it's like, 2021, and there's this thing called DoorDash. You could have just DoorDashed the donut.
You could, there's so many other ways to do it other than showing up. And I get FaceTime. I totally understand FaceTime. I totally understand being there, being available to your employees. But again, how many of these things that they come to you with an emergency are truly emergencies? How many things?
That's such a good point though, Wendy, because I think, oh my gosh, because like my first job was what screwed me up.
It usually is.
Because I felt like I had to always be on, and I was doing third-party staffing. I was an office manager. I knew my staff didn't get paid super great. So like I tried to shield them from like the extra outside of hours work. And a lot of times it was no 1 o'clock a.m. spam calls for me. It was 1 a.m. Somebody just cut their thumb off at a manufacturing plant 52 miles away from your house and we need you to go take care of it. But like, so I think that I took that into every job I've had since then, that I'm the HR person. I'm the recruiter. I am always available. So I think that that's a really good point. Like, define what that means for your organization and have them, before an emergency happens, make them give you an example of what an emergency would be that they would need you for.
Right.
So that
cutting off your thumb, probably a good call.
Yeah. Well, I will say though, like I can do that paperwork any time of the day.
Exactly.
You probably shouldn't have called me first. You should have called an ambulance first.
Right.
Because I cannot put your thumb back together.
Well,
but
and that's the whole thing
about
too.
The incident.
Yeah, you need to know about it. But again, the paperwork can be filled out at 8 o'clock the next day.
Yeah.
Take care of you. And when I had night shift employees, that was my whole thing. Like, we can do the paperwork anytime. Be safe. Take care of you first. Then tell us about it. You know, if you need to take somebody to the emergency room, take them to the emergency room. Don't call the AVP of facilities to tell him because he can't do anything. Call the ambulance and we'll take care of everything else the next day. I think, you know, that's where we have, and part of it having insurance tied to employment. We won't go down that road today. But that's part of the problem too, is because I know employees are like, well, what's covered, what's not? Is this workers' comp? Is it not workers' comp? What should I do? No, if it's a true emergency, call 911. Let them take care of it.
Gushing out of
yes.
HR can do nothing for you at this point. So please call an ambulance.
We can't help you, so it's helping people understand who your first call is. And it's probably not your recruiter.
Though I was young and dumb and I was like on my way, got my steel toe boots on and headed over the hill. Like, I mean, I told them I was like, listen, send him to the ER. Yeah. Either somebody drive him there right now or call an ambulance, whatever is going to be quicker at this point. I am on my way. And I did the documentation at 3 o'clock in the morning and inspected the area at 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, I was more than just a recruiter, but, and then not only did my management chain know I was available at all hours,
right?
But now this customer who works first, second, and third shift 7 days a week, they know I'm available.
Right.
All the time. So I guess I did it to myself.
We don't need to be in there. I mean, it's nice to be needed. It is. It's so nice to be needed. Of course, I once worked with an HR director who had such a need to be needed that when she announced she was retiring, she gave like 3 months notice of her retirement date. She refused to share anything of what she was doing with anybody, so that she had to be on retainer contract to finish out some of the employee relations things that she was working on. She had such a need to be needed.
We don't
and those were all those things that I was watching this and I'm just going, no, I want to retire and leave this all behind. I want to go on vacation with my family. And if I like you, if we're friends, maybe I'll send you a picture of us with Mickey Mouse, but I'm not answering emails. I'm not even going to go clean out emails because as soon as I get back, anything that's marked external, because we all have that, deleting that, you can, it's all vendors.
Word.
You know what your spam is. You know what those spam things that come into your email are. And even if you don't want to delete them, put them into another folder and look at them after you've gone through what's really important. You know who's important. Find your supervisor's name, their supervisor, their supervisor's supervisor. Go up your chain. What names do you need to look for? There's ways to get through your email box quickly during that first day back to find out what's really important. And chances are anything that was urgent, someone else took care of. because you had a good out of office that told people who to contact or when you'd be back, and it'll be fine. The world is going to keep turning, and we all know, and this is very morbid to say, but I've been through it. If you were to pass away, they would be sad, but they would have your job posted tomorrow.
Hey, some of them wouldn't be sad, okay?
Some would be sad, and some would have your job posted within an hour. And they, if you were to leave, if you were to quit, if you were to get fired, they'd still keep turning. Maybe there'd be some projects that would change focus or whatever, but you're not there. They're going to figure it out. There's a lot of smart people that work in that organization. And if there's not, then you were just barely keeping them afloat anyway.
Yeah, that's a whole different problem. That's a whole different problem.
That's a different issue altogether.
I think that, looking back at my, because I was like 19 when I started that job, I don't think that I felt like, oh, I need to be needed. I thought that was
you thought that was your job. Yeah.
And so maybe people need to know, especially like the newbies, and Jasmine and I love to talk to the newbies. So maybe they need to hear this, that that's not the job.
That's not, you're not getting paid to go clean up blood at 1:00 in the morning or do paperwork at 1:00 in the morning. That's not your job. That's no HR person's job unless you're attached to safety. And that's the safety part of your job. But that's different too. You shouldn't be cleaning that up. Get a professional to clean that up. Please. There's the understanding, and I think it really does come down to those of us in HR being strong enough to stand up and say, no, that is not part of our job. That's not something that we should be doing. We shouldn't be showing up at 1:00 in the morning unless we are actually going to a night shift. If we're going to go meet with night shift folks, that's different too. Because you should,
Yeah.
You should go. If you have people on third shift, you should show up and see them every once in a while. But don't work a 24-hour shift. I did that once at the airlines. It was not fun. But that was customer service. That wasn't HR. That was different.
Which sounds worse. That sounds worse.
Much worse. Much worse. Yeah, 24 hours in a snowstorm. I don't recommend it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Wendy. This was a lot of information. I know, like Christina said, when we had to talk with HR Social Hour, we both looked into, because yes, you were working while you were on the beach, Christina. Yes. So we were like, boundaries, balance. What are those things? And so you shared a lot with, how we should go into our next job, how we should deal with the current position that we are in. And I think you definitely, us going into the topic of, HR being on call 24/7, because I'm a person that I truly do believe that HR for the organization that you are in could possibly be on call 24/7. So having a different view of that is actually very helpful to me. So thank you for joining us tonight.
You are welcome. This was so much fun.
It was. Christina, did you get all of your questions answered?
I did, and I've got like my list for my next therapy appointment for real, because we've been working on. Listen, I've recognized that boundaries are a problem. Now I'm trying to fix that.
Well, and it is hard to see sometimes, because we do, you just you get started in it and you think this is just how it is, and you don't realize that there are other people doing things differently. And that I was the same way. And for me, getting some of those wake up calls like, oh no, I don't want that to be my life.
Yeah. So this was great. Thank you so much. I'm welcome. Sure we will chat again soon.
Oh, I hope so.
So everyone, if you are not following us on Instagram yet, you need to be following BakedHR over at Instagram. We try to go live every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Central. Sometimes we might even have a surprise guest over there. You'll have to go check it out. And new full episodes drop here on the YouTube channel every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central. So if you are already subscribed, go tell a friend about us so that they will subscribe, and we will see y'all next time.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.